Mail time! I got a package today, guys. And it's kind of thin, but it is heavy. Quite a thud that made there. This is actually coming from the UK, and is actually not even the first time I've ordered something Zoids related from someone in the UK, and this is something I'm really excited about. This is a really special treat. Unlike anything I've purchased for the collection or shown off in a video before. And it's something I was hoping I'd be able to get my hands on, but wasn't sure, and so I wasn't ever really placing any bets on it or assuming that I ever would be able to find this, but I did, and I feel like I got it for a pretty good price as well. The condition may vary, but we'll see when we actually get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this open right now. I am super excited about this, and unfortunately I don't have my X-Acto knife, otherwise that might be the preferable way to open this, because I do have to be careful, although it looks like I have a perfectly good opportunity to kind of cut under the tape line there. Make sure there's nothing in this letter. I think it's from the post over there across the aisles. So for those of you who are very much familiar with vintage Zoids, you would know that a lot of the classic Zoids in the 80s were not released here in the US under the Zoids brand at least, but there was a line that was released in Europe that was different from the original Japanese release. So the original Japanese release we call OJR, and then the ones that were released in Europe we call OER. Pretty easy nomenclature to understand there. And there was a storyline that went along with the OER Zoids that was different, of course, from the original battle story. And there was a series of comics published for the OER storyline, and that is what we have here today. Oh my god, that is so cool. I'm going to toss this box aside. There we go. Wow, I've gotten a newspaper from Japan and a newspaper from the UK all in the same week. That is awesome. Wow, these are big too. Like the size of these things I was not expecting. But yeah, this is the entire run of all of the UK Zoids comics, all of them. I don't even know what to say. I'm so taken aback. So it shows the product line here on this one. I'm not sure what issue this is yet. Introducing the very latest new Zoids. Catch up in your collection today. And it shows there's a Red Gustav there named Red Scavenger. There's the Candidators called Canon with a K. Hellcat. Obviously the what is that thing called? The Iguan is called Zillion or Zillion. And then you have a black saber tiger there just called Zaber with a Z, which is probably the first time of that name being used anywhere. So huge shout outs to the person on the Zoids Collectors group that sold me these. I was really worried I wasn't going to get them because I thought somebody else was going to jump on it really quick, but we did manage to snag it here. What is this bag from as well? That's got to be something local to the UK I'm not too familiar with. But yeah, I'm not sure if these are in the correct order either, but I will be sort of finding out as I go here. So they're pretty small. Oh my god, that's so cool. So yeah, Spider-Man and Zoids. Red Horn the Terrible there, who is the sort of the antagonist, the leader of the Red Zoids, as it were. And the artwork in here is pretty rudimentary for late 80s, early 90s Marvel Comics. It's pretty par for the course. So some of it's not great, but the Zoids models themselves are pretty detailed. So I really can't complain too much. I kind of like how the Red Horn is stylized with horns that protrude forward, sort of in a weaponized, menacing manner like that. That's pretty cool. So these things are actually the back of the comics. Spider-Man and Zoids. These must be the android pilots there, maybe, or maybe that might just be the Kingpin. We'll have to read and figure it out. So this was February 14th, 1987. Wow, that is so cool. I cannot even describe how awesome it is to have these. And they're in good shape, too. A lot of these are in really good condition. February 7th, 1987. Wow. Clark's Commandos, which, of course, we know who that is. That's the Pteramander here, this guy. That is so cool. I will be reading all of these and hopefully acquiring sort of an encyclopedic knowledge of the OER story and hopefully be able to speak to that so that in future reviews I can really kind of intelligently talk about the the original European story. So it was a January 31st of 87, so we must be going in reverse order here. I'm not sure if this storyline was actually 100% finished either. It may not have been, so we may have a cliffhanger ending there. So Spider-Man and Zoids featuring a Spider-Man cover there, which I don't know if it's just that Spider-Man. This is a comic that features both some Spider-Man comics and some Zoids comics in one book, or if it's actually a crossover where Spider-Man interacts with the Zoids OER characters. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think it's just that these just happen to be Marvel Spider-Man comics, also have a Zoids comic in them, but I will find out as I read through this. I mean, even if they're not exactly, tied to each other, I think it's really cool to have, some 80s Marvel comics. That's pretty awesome in and of itself. There's one of the androids there getting its ass handed to it, and then there's what looks like the disembodied head of Gore the Lord Protector over there, the Iron Kong, just kind of sitting there on the ground. I'm really, really excited to read these. Probably will take me a very long time to get through them, so don't assume right away that I will have an encyclopedic knowledge of this story quite yet. Give me some time to actually get through these. I'm so impressed with how good condition these are in, too. And I definitely want to keep them that way. I may actually get some sleeves for these. I know that there are some comic book protectors. There's the Gojulus, or Zoidzilla as it's called there, which I do have a review of one of those coming soon as well. That's actually my very next review is going to be specifically not only just a Gojulus, but specifically Zoidzilla, which is the other Zoid, or the other Zoid purchase that I made from Europe. So quite excited about that. So yeah, I've purchased Zoids from U.S., Canada, UK, and Japan. There is Gore the Lord Protector. Yeah, it looks like he did kind of lose his head there. That's a shame. I guess we'll find out what happened to him as we read the story. I'm sure his pilot's very upset about that. From what I know with these stories, the pilots are not really the main character, so to speak. Like, the Zoids are sentient, and the pilots are just sort of there to necessitate their functionality. And sometimes they're just android pilots that don't really serve much of a purpose. I got two of these stuck together here. That's a pretty cool cover art there. It seems like they alternate between, like I said, a Zoids cover and a Spider-Man cover. I don't know I still do not know yet if they appear in the same comic or not. I almost thought that wasn't the front page there with the what do you call it, magazine cover there like that. Or the, not magazine, newspaper cover like that. I'm very tired. I was at work for like 13 hours today. And I did that several days in a row last week, so I'm super burned out. I like to get some 80s Transformers comics as well. There's a little snapshot of those. I actually do have a Transformers comics compendium that does have some of the 80s UK comics in it. And from what I've heard, those do have a pretty cool storyline. Very interesting just to understand why there was a separate storyline for Transformers just published by Marvel. The American ones and the UK ones both under Marvel have, see, there's the Gordos, which I don't know what its name is, and a couple of the little basic, I don't even know what type of Zoids those are. Yeah, it's really weird how Zoids has, or sorry, how Transformers has a different comic series in both the U.S. and in Europe at the same time. Like, they were published separately for whatever unknown reason. God, there's so many of these. I'm assuming it's just little chunks of the story as we go. It'd be nice to have all this bound in one big compendium kind of thing. There's the Gillibrator, not sure what it's called in OER, but we'll find out. Maybe it's just Crocodile, stylized with a K. I wouldn't be surprised knowing these comics, knowing the OER in general. It's a nice little Spider-Man cover there. I obviously have never talked about Marvel on this channel at all, so I am actually a pretty big fan of Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man quite a bit, but I realize I would have no reason to ever talk about Marvel on this channel, but yeah, I do appreciate having these, even just for the Spider-Man aspect of it as well, because I do like him quite a bit, and I've never really collected any Spider-Man comics, so it's pretty cool to have. These probably lean more towards the goofier side of things, I would imagine, which is not surprising. I would really like to see if maybe nowadays the Zoids Wild manga would get an English release over here, because I would definitely buy that up, even though I criticized the art of the Zoids Wild manga so much and said how ugly it was. But I don't think there was a manga for Zoids Wild Zero at all, if I'm not mistaken. The other Zoids mangas were published in America. The Chaotic Century, New Century Zero one, but they're very scarce. I have never really been able to find them. There's some people occasionally that I see selling them on some of the collectors groups, but I've never really been able to personally get my hands on any of them or see any that are for sale for any kind of reasonable prices. That's a pretty cool cover. It is Quark again there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a infected Blue Zoid. Actually, that may be wrong. I may be thinking of Mammoth. I think the OER Mammoth, there's a blue and a red version of it for that reason. Some nice scale there for you. Human underneath Zoidzilla's foot there. Yeah, there's another cool view of some of the model kits there. So again, it's Gore, the Lord Protector. That little wind-up Zoid there is a Terra Red. The snail one is called Slime. Brad actually has a RoboStrux version of this guy right here, which is in the backlog to review. There's a red Terrace there called Zark, which I think there's also a blue version of the Terrace even in this era as well. We're seeing a lot of the same Transformers cover on the same thing there. A lot of the original, very, very old school wind-up Zoids there. Trooper Zoid is the Godos there. Just awesome, fantastic, retro-style artwork there. And there's something very timeless about old comic book art as well, because, yeah, it doesn't necessarily hold up very well nowadays, and it does have sort of a very pulpy and sort of characteristically mediocre feel to it, but I think that does give it character and give it its own sort of timeless feel. I think this has a weird texture to it. Did we already see this issue before? It's July of 1986. We are going back in time, ladies and gentlemen. This is when the original Transformers movie was brand new. Of course, a reference to Apocalypse Now. That's definitely a very 80s reference. What the heck? Is that G2 Megatron there? Man, he's ugly. Hobgoblin there. Man, there's so many issues of this. There's probably a way you guys can read this online, and I was actually planning on doing that. What is Darth Vader doing here? I did not expect I didn't expect this at all. So the Cover, of course, says Spider-Man and Zoids, but there's Star Wars references in here. I can't wait to see the absolute insanity. You know, that cover might actually be good for the panel that Brad and I do. Just be like, can you think of anything more 80s than this? And just show that picture and be like, yeah, this was the wild, wild west of copyright and crossovers back then. They literally would give any brand to Marvel to make comics and didn't really care about continuity or anything like that. Just said, just make it. Just make the comics. We're not going to care about whether or not it fits into our existing canon or it represents our brand very well. Just make it. Really, really cool. I'm a bit concerned with where I'm going to store these, actually. In my closet here in the game room, just to the right of me, is a big stack of a lot of the other magazines I've sort of held on to, and a little bit of comics I've held on to as a kid. Famously, on the other channel, I'm going to be talking about the Beckett Yu-Gi-Oh! Collector magazines and some of the Beckett Pokemon Collector magazines as well, and how awesome those are, and how much I love collecting those. And how some of those have not aged particularly well, but they're in pretty good condition. I have mostly every issue of the Beckett Yu-Gi-Oh! Collector, and I would love to make a video on those because I don't feel like many people have. And they are a gold mine of material. They're a nice little glimpse into that older era there. There's Red Horn again, and he doesn't have his horns actually pointed towards the camera in a jagged, pointy way. Maybe that's an upgrade for him, or maybe it's I'm sure they don't keep the characters on model for every single issue, every single panel, so there's going to be a lot of off and on model in reference to the original model kit there. Dye Blue 2010 Fools. I'm not sure what that means, what the 2010 is in reference to, but maybe this is supposed to take place in 2020. There's Red Horn as well. Looks like he has eyes there, and his eyes are closed. That's pretty cool. Nice to see the Red Horn with so much characteristic in there. I do have another Red Horn review planned eventually, of course, because I do have my HMM one I've yet to build. Probably will be a while before I do build that. But of course, when I do, I can't wait to go into extraneous detail about everything that Red Horn the Terrible does here in the comics. There's a nice shot of Gore the Lord Protector, and of the actual model kit as well, and a little Mulga, which of course was called Slither in these comics. So that version of him just looks awesome. Although I've heard from my friends in the UK, like the gentleman I bought the Gojulus off of, that, well, actually no, I can. He told me about the Red Horn tail breaking. I personally have an issue with the Iron Kong and its shoulder breaking. Although luckily he has an original Gore the Lord Protector that does not have a broken shoulder. It's actually complete, which is pretty nice. Another shot of Zoidzilla. Ooh, this one's in pretty rough shape. Yeah, this one's, I think it's missing its actual cover, which is, no, I guess it is March of '86. I guess they just used this image with Croc on a lot in the later issues. Yeah, this one's pretty heavily damaged, but other than that, most of these have been in remarkably good shape. And then there's this, the final thing, which is Zoids Annual, which is actually like a hardback, like a book. That's pretty cool. I wonder what this actually is. It might just be a comic compendium or something that explains the story so far. That's really cool. That is awesome. There's the Zoid Core. And little Zoids maintaining it there. Somebody actually filled out the little crossword puzzle in there too. That's so awesome. These things have a lot of history behind them too, and I just can't imagine what it would have been like to be a kid in the 80s and actually collect these and see how far the Zoids brand has come since then. Because I'm sure it was like an obscure, flash in the pan fad thing back then. I don't know how popular Zoids really were in the 80s. Being that, I wasn't a kid in the UK or in Japan in the 80s, which are the only places you really could enjoy them. And I know RoboStrux was not particularly popular here in the US, so I only know of my own experiences from the when it finally came to America in 2002. But anyway, that is going to be it for this video, guys. This is such an awesome collection. I couldn't possibly be any happier with this. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.